back here at JEF, and make sure I get the designation right. And so, happy to be here to tell you about what went on in Springfield this last year, legislative session. You know, what goes on down there really, what we're doing down there really has a profound effect on your life today and where things will be tomorrow. So it is important work that's going on down there. We obviously have very challenging times, but you know, that's why we go. Keep working, right? So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we did, talk to you about some of the highlights, some of the good stuff, and then, as I like to do, I'm never shy away from filling you in on some of the bad stuff, so we'll let you know about that stuff too. So just a little legislation 101, just to give you an idea. As Ryan said, I come here because this is right after session ends. So in the Illinois legislature, session begins in January, and the regular session where we pass all of our bills and is supposed to end May 31st, which is also our budget deadline. That's our deadline to pass the budget out of the legislature. So on May 31st, after we pass the budget, we've done all of our business for the year, we adjourn, and at that point, all of the bills then move to the governor's office, the bills that have passed both chambers, and he reviews them over the summer, decides which ones he's going to sign, which ones he's going to veto, and which ones he's going to amend totally. And then we come back in the fall for 2 weeks to address any bills that he has vetoed, right? And then in January, we start the whole process all over again. That's the way it's supposed to work. The first 5 years I was in the legislature, it never worked that way. So my first year there was this big pension reform initiative. And so when we adjourned on May 31st, we were brought back throughout the summer. And the next year we were brought back, not too bad the next year, but we were brought back for marriage equality, which was good. And then the last 3 years, we were brought back throughout the summer because Governor Rauner would not agree to a budget with us, so we had budget impacts. So this is the first year in my 6th year as a legislator where when we adjourned on May 31st, I'm not expecting to go back until November, and I really can't get my head around it, right? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. So it's a good thing. It's the way it's supposed to work. I can be in the district, do things like this, let people know what's going on, start working on legislation for next year. So I'm glad. So now that we adjourn the session, and I want to talk about the good stuff, and the reason that I get to be in the district for the summer is, and this is good, is we have a budget. We have a budget, right? Who'd have thunk it? Not me, that's for sure. I really thought there was no way that Governor Rauner would agree to a budget. But not only did he agree and participate, and we passed the budget in bipartisan fashion, but he's already signed it. So we have a budget. So what's good about the budget? And I made some notes here just so I don't forget. Let me make sure I get to that. So good about the budget. Number one, it is balanced. Sort of, right? I mean, it's government, right? So close is good, right? It is mostly balanced. It could be balanced. In fact, it could even have a surplus. It's hard to actually pin it down. Was there some budget gimmickry? Well, it's Illinois. Of course there was some gimmickry. One of the things that pops up is part of the budget relies on, I think, $300 million from the sale of the Thompson Center, right? Except that's been in the last 3 budgets, right? So I don't know if we keep selling it, or you know, if we're ever going to get around to it. If we're just counting the savings from it. I don't know, but that was one of the things that Governor Rauner really wants to do, is he wants to sell the Thompson Center, and so that was part of the budget. The other part of the budget that is a little bit speculative is something that I had to do with, although I didn't have anything to do with the speculative part, and that's some of the pension savings that we created, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a bit. Number 2, what was really good about the budget? It was bipartisan. Right? The Democrats and Republicans worked together and said, okay, enough of the nonsense. Let's secure the finances of the state, even if it's just for this year, right? But let's get it done. And that was good. It was really good bipartisan cooperation. I was part of some of the budget negotiations, and I was really pleased with how well they went, even including from the governor's staff. I thought they really worked well. So that's a good thing, and hopefully that carries on for the future, because we won't solve our problems unless both parties are working together to get it done. The budget has no new taxes, sort of. And now we didn't actually pass new taxes, but if anyone heard today, the Supreme Court, and this is actually a good thing, the Supreme Court said that it is now legal for states to assess taxes on internet sellers who sell goods in the state. You're actually supposed to be paying taxes on that already, not too many people report them on their taxes, but now the state can actually collect from the retailer. It's no longer on the consumer to self-report and then pay when their tax returns due. This won't be huge for Illinois, but it's like they're predicting about $150 million of additional resources, and given our financial condition, every bit helps. So this is good. For the record, I think 80% of internet transactions are already taxed. This allows us to bring in like that other 20% in Illinois. All right. Three other good things about the budget. One is and this is probably my favorite part of the budget, is that for the first time in a decade, we have increased spending on higher education. And to me, that is so important. Because of the budget problems that started, well, we've had budget problems for a long time, but they only came to a head where we actually had to address them. They've been ignored for decades. So about 12 years ago, we started making drastic cuts. And higher ed was always on the chopping block. So we have decreased funding to higher education over the course of the last 10 years, nearly 50%, which is unconscionable, because higher ed is one of those assets of our state that really is, I mean, one of the reasons when you talk to businesses that they wish to locate in Illinois is because of our system of state universities, which means that if you locate a business here, you know that you have access to an educated workforce that can come in and do the job that you need them to do. And so cutting on our state universities is really the wrong thing to do. The budget has decimated them. I've continued to fight for funding. We've finally seen an uptick in funding. That's good. It's a good first step. It's not huge, but it's a step in the right direction, apparently, changing the trend. Second thing that's good is we saw a modest increase in the wage rates for in-home care providers. So again, these are the people that if a person is disabled or a senior citizen and they need in-home care, these people come in and take on tasks for our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones. We all probably know someone who receives some sort of in-home assistance. They are doing really challenging work, right? Bathing, wiping, right? Sorts of things and they are paid slave wages, right? So a little bit of an increase, and that's important because as we begin to raise minimum wages, people are starting to say, why would I do that hard job when I can go work somewhere else and make the same amount of money? So we need to encourage people to do this job, otherwise we won't be able to provide the service. So to me, that was a good thing. And then the last thing I want to talk about was what I started about, which is my, I'm the chairman of the pension committee, which I'm not sure how I got that. I kind of feel like, was that a wrong order or punishment, right? I was asked to chair the pension committee, which is an honor because it's one of the committees where there really is profound work, right? Because the vast majority of our financial problems in Illinois revolve around our pension debt. So at the beginning of the year, I got to work and decided that, so we tried to pass pension reform in 2013. I didn't vote for it because I thought it was unconstitutional. The Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional. And this was unilateral diminishment. We said to pensioners, we're just going to give you less than what we promised. And the Supreme Court said, you can't do that. And since that time, there's been like nothing going on. Nobody's talking about the pension problem. So I said, look, let's work within the constitutional bounds, the limits that we have. Let's try and find some financial solutions. And we came up with some ideas, and we sort of combined them into one package. And what it is to the gist of it is that we call it a pension buyout. Okay. What does that mean? Well, let's suggest that we have a state retiree who's about to retire. And again, we owe this tremendous debt to our system, but we have to pay the benefits to these state retirees. Now, if you're a Tier 1 state retiree, which is before we made the changes, then when you retire, you're entitled to a 3% compounding COLA, annual 3% increase that compounds every year. That is quite a good adjustment, right? And that's the promise that we made. That's what we have to live up to. But with the pension buyout option, what we're doing is we're saying to an employee, as they come in to sign up for their pension after they've retired, we say, now we will offer you an option. You can keep your COLA if you like. That's what you want, it's yours, right? This is now no longer a unilateral diminishment. You say, you don't have to be diminished at all. You can keep what you've got. Or, if you choose, if it makes sense for you, you can opt into a lower COLA, a 1.5% COLA, not a 3% COLA. And instead of compounding annually, it's a 1.5% simple COLA, so it doesn't compound. This is the rate of inflation over the course of the last 20 years. It's been about 1.5%. So you still get inflation protection, but in exchange for giving up the 3% compound COLA, we will give you the difference, right? We will calculate out what the two COLAs are going to cost. We will give you that difference in money up front in cash at a discount. We'll give you 70 cents on the dollar. Okay. Now, you might say, well, why would anyone accept 70 cents on the dollar? And the answer that I have is, well, how long are you going to live, right? Because the COLA that you get is only as long as you're alive. You could say, oh, heck, I'm not taking 70 cents on the dollar. You'll pay me my full COLA. You walk across the street, get hit by a bus, you get no COLA. Okay? That's the way it works. So cash up front for a lot of people makes sense, and that's why discounting it, which bring it all forward, makes a lot of sense. How much are we talking here? A teacher in Illinois, the average teacher retiring who's a Tier 1 teacher, if they accept the lower COLA, will receive a check for $120,000. Not bad. You can put that into, if you have a disabled child, you take that money and put it into a savings account with these new Able 529 accounts to provide for disabled children. And you can let that money grow tax-free, and that will provide for your child when you're gone. So there's a lot of things you can do with that money up front. But because it's a discount, every person who opts into it saves the system money. And so this was the plan that I put forward. We put it into the budget. It passed as part of the budget. It's predicted to save the state in the vicinity of $500 million a year. There's questions about, because how much it saves depends on how many people opt into it, right? There will be people who opt into it, and the question is how many. But I have good news. That little pension plan actually got Moody's to improve our credit ratings. And that's something we haven't seen in a long time around here, okay? So it was something that Moody's liked. They said, this is a good plan, we'll work, it will save the state money, and we're going to improve your credit ratings because of it. So that was, I was very happy about that. And if I talked about it too long, I apologize, but that's one of these unbroken. I did it, so I'm happy about it. Thank you. You know, I will tell you that working on stuff like pensions is not as much fun as working on all the other stuff, but I take comfort in it because it really is going to have the most profound effect on our future. and let me tell you, that future is very uncertain at this time. So I take comfort in working in the boring stuff because, well, somebody's got to. So, all right, let's talk about some other good stuff that passed. Some of it might be good, some of it might not be good, but that all depends on what your standpoint is. So, as many of you know, this is in no particular order. As many of you know, there was an issue with carjacking, increased carjacking in the city of Chicago. And so there was a proposal for a legislative fix carried by my colleague just to the east, Representative Jaime Andrade. He put together legislation. There were some people that came out and thought it was a bad idea because they feel that we shouldn't increase our criminal prosecutions. I'm of a different mind. I have been a willing participant and a big supporter of criminal justice reform because I think we should. But criminal justice reform can't just be one way. It's examining the whole system, figuring out what's broken, and fixing it. If we're incarcerating people for crimes that we shouldn't be incarcerating them for, like low-level drug offenses, or we're turning them into career criminals, let's fix that. That's not right. It's morally wrong. It's bad for our system. But at the same time, if people are getting away with a crime, and we have no way of stopping them from doing that, then we need to change the laws so that we have the tools to stop them. So what this bill did was it said that carjacking was almost, in its current state, is almost impossible to prove if you're a criminal defense attorney. Because when someone is carjacked, and I'm sure you've seen the news, what happens is they sneak up on the driver, fling open the door, and immediately stick a gun in the face. Well, let me tell you something. When a gun is pointed on your face, the first thing you do is not peek around the barrel to see if you can get a good identification of the guy who's got a gun pointed in your face. You turn your head down, right? As soon as you do, they drag you out of the car, they jump in the car, and they drive away. So now, if you are going to prosecute someone for aggravated carjacking, you must identify the offender. No one can, okay? So actually, stopping them and arresting them for carjacking, you're not going to do it because no victim has, very few have ever been able to actually identify the offender. But there's a second part of it, it's called a lesser included offense, right? So what happens sometimes is the police pull over someone an hour later in a car that happened to be stolen, and rough description fitting the person right, that clothing or whatever they did see of the person who committed the carjacking, and they pull them over. Now they can't ID them as the person who committed the carjacking, but they're in possession of a stolen vehicle, so we can charge them with possession of a stolen motor vehicle. The problem in Illinois is that Illinois said that in order to be charged with the crime of possession of a motor vehicle, the person in possession of the vehicle had to know, actual knowledge, that the vehicle was stolen. So the police would pull them over and they'd say, where'd you get this car? And they said, oh, I borrowed it from my friend. What friend? My friend Gary. Gary who? Oh, I don't know, Gary. We know him from there. We just call him Gary. Done. Right? You can't prove it. So the law that was proposed to change was to allow knowledge to be imputed from, so knowledge could be imputed if the car was recently stolen and the person who was driving the car did not have the express consent of the owner. And you could say that that person knew that that car was stolen. And so that's a way of maybe allowing us to do more prosecutions than people with genuine crime. So that's carjacking. One of the things that I think is really good was we passed a series of gun reform bills. We'll see what happens with that. That was kind of interesting. So we passed a series of bills that went to the governor, and then the governor amended one bill and sent it back to us with an amendatory veto during the middle of session, which is rare. And that was really weird, right? So what we did was we passed these gun reform bills. He turned around and combined them into one bill and sent it back. I don't know if anybody heard about this, but attached to that bill was a reinstatement of the death penalty. Okay? And so everyone went, what? Why would you do that? Right? And it was really weird because what he did was, he didn't say straight up that the death penalty is reinstated in Illinois. He said it's only for people who kill police officers and who kill, who do school shootings, right? And then he said that it would only be in cases where, does everybody know what the criminal standard of proof is? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Have you heard that? Beyond a reasonable doubt? So Governor Rauner added in his legislation that the new standard, if you were to be convicted of this crime, was beyond all doubt, which doesn't exist in the law, right? There is no such standard. So we had a series of hearings, and it was like, became pretty clear that it was a political stunt that was ridiculous. Even his own staff were like, yeah, just redo the bills and send them back. So we passed them again, and they're all going to the governor's desk. So what do? Number one, they increased the waiting periods for all purchases of weapons to 72 hours. Previously, it was only handguns, were 72. Everything else, including assault weapons, was only 24 hours. So now this will allow us to license through the state of Illinois gun dealers. Currently, they're licensed through the federal government, but that's a pretty lax process. So that will allow us to put in a stricter process where we require surveillance cameras in the stores. Well, let's cut down on what we call straw purchases. Number 3, the red flag bill. And what the red flag bill does is it says that law enforcement or family members can walk into a court and they can petition a court to say, you know, Joey's been acting a little strange and we're concerned and we think he should not have access to guns. And will allow them to take away the guns for a period of 6 months or until a series of hearings determine if Joey's okay. This really comes out of the notion that a lot of these school shootings come from, everyone goes, didn't anyone notice that something was wrong with this guy and why did he have access to guns, right? So it's a common sense way of addressing that issue. So that was the 3 gun bills that we passed, and I think they're really good. So I'm hoping the governor will sign. All right, a few more good things that we did. We passed the Equal Rights Amendment. It only took 34 years, but you know, in Illinois things move a little slow. But we got it done, and I'm so proud to have the opportunity to be there during that historic moment. We need one more state. One more state. And they're looking at Virginia and North Carolina as possibilities. Well, you know, at this point, the pickings are slim, right? But we did pass the year in Illinois, it was great. We passed Tobacco 21, which will raise the age for purchasing tobacco from 18 to 21. It's already that in Chicago and a lot of other communities will make it statewide. Okay, 3 things that I did, bills that I worked on that I'm also real happy about. Again, so in 2010 we changed our pension system and we instituted what's called Tier 2 pensions, which are really, really austere benefits. In fact, they are teachers that have been hired after, and all public sector workers who've been hired after January 1st, 2011, their pension system is so austere that they're paying 9.5% of their salary, and yet they're only getting a benefit that is roughly equal to Social Security, when Social Security you only put 6.2% of your salary into Social Security. So it's a very, very austere benefit, and as such, we really need to, this is one of my big things, is retirement readiness, right? So people are going along, we've had Tier 2 employees working for 8 years, and they're thinking, well, I've got a pension, I'll be fine. No, you will not. You need to save more money for your retirement than just your pension. If you were Tier 1, you could do that. Tier 2, you've got to supplement, right? And so the way that that's done in the public sector is deferred compensation. It works like a 401k. It's tax-free savings that you can accumulate, and then you can withdraw part of your retirement. The problem is with teachers across the state, the deferred compensation systems were put together by the local school districts, okay? And what you can imagine is a little local school district gets together and they said, okay, we got to offer deferred comp. yeah, how do we do that? And so he says, you know, my brother-in-law does that. Oh, yeah, get your brother-in-law. And the brother-in-law sets up a booth in the cafeteria and says, talk to me about your retirement. And what he's doing is not trying to offer the teacher the best retirement savings vehicle he can. He's trying to make money. Okay? And what do I mean by this? I don't know how many of you know this. I didn't know this. I know it now. It makes me a little sick to my stomach. But I was talking to a retirement expert. He said, you know, some of these teachers are paying an additional 1 to 2% fees for the management of these deferred comp programs. And I thought to myself, 1 or 2%? Who would get upset about 1 or 2%? And then he told me, do you know what that does to the balance of your retirement savings over the course of your career? And I said, no, why? He said, it reduces it in half. So imagine if a teacher could have saved $500,000 in retirement income. Well, it's not $250,000. Because $250,000 I still forgot to go in the pockets of somebody who's taking advantage of it. To me, that's unconscionable. So I passed a bill that will require the teacher's retirement system, which is the pension system for all the teachers, to offer a unified, centralized deferred compensation. Low cost, high performance, to help teachers save money for retirement. So I think that's a good thing because it'll create retirement security. It's a big issue. Because remember, for the people who want us to cut, one of the big ways that we cut was we passed Tier 2 pensions. But the problem with Tier 2 pensions is that if we're not careful, we're going to have a lot of public employees who are going to wind up hitting retirement age, and they're going to be destitute. They're going to be living in poverty. And then you know what they're going to do? We're going to come back for public assistance, which is going to so it doesn't save you any money. So this is a way of getting ahead of the time, helping people save for their own retirement. So I was very proud of it. Another thing that I did with pensions, we gave the state university retirement system pension. We gave them intercept authority. So all of the universities, if they're not kicking in the money that they need, they can now intercept state funds before they go to these universities to make sure that that's a way of helping ensure that we're securing the pensions so they're not running into, going the wrong way, making sure the money gets put in. So those are some of the things that got passed. So that's the good. We got a budget, it's balanced, there's no new taxes for the moment, and we worked in a bipartisan fashion. We passed the RA, we passed the gun reform laws. We did some good things down here. Now for the not so good. Okay? And this is sort of the warning bell that I've been ringing. Over the course of the last 6 years, I've learned more about state finances than I ever thought I would care to know. And it's fascinating. And so is everybody familiar with the Congressional Budget Office, the CEO? You hear about that a lot. The Congressional Budget Office. It's a nonpartisan group of economists and financial experts who work for the Congress. Who? The Democrats? No. The Republicans? No. Everybody? Yes. Okay. They're nonpartisan. We have the same thing in the state. It's called COG, the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability. Nonpartisan economists and financial experts. And so, as I became chair of pensions, and I started looking at this growing pension ramp that we're on. So on this ramp, we're currently paying $8.5 billion a year. And the end of the ramp to get us to pay off our pension debt, to get us to 90% funded, is in 2045. And that payment in 2045 is $20 billion. Okay? Our entire budget is $38.5 billion this year. Now, our budget should grow, but it's not going to grow at the same pace as the pension payments. And so I started, as I was on all of these financial committees, I started getting questions in my head. And so I asked the COG, I said, could you please run a projection? I said, could you run a projection over the course of the next 27 years, which is the length of our pension? And I said, with the following assumptions. Number one, that we make every pension payment as required, because as we learned, not doing that is really bad. Okay? Number two, we recently passed much heralded bipartisan education funding reform. We're going to add more money to fund education equitably, more fair throughout the state. And And that's a commitment of $350 million a year, every year, additional, for the next 10 years. So we get to $30.5 billion of additional spending on K-12 education. It's a great thing. I'm a big supporter, I was a big proponent of it. But we have to make that payment, right? So I said, assume we make the pension payments, assume we make the education payments, and assume all other states' spending grows by its historical average. And I said, do we have enough money to balance the budgets over the next 27 years, given our current tax structure, right? 4.95% flat rate. And the answer was no. And I said, okay, how much do we fall short over the course of the next 27 years? And the answer was $224 billion. $224 billion cumulative budget deficit over the course of the next 27 years. And so I said, what tax rate would we need if we kept a flat tax structure in order to balance the budgets, right? Because if you don't balance the budget, you're just pushing the problem further down for the next generation, and that comes with interest, right? It costs way more to pay tomorrow than it does today. So I said, what's the tax rate we would need? And they responded that mathematically, as of January 1st, 2019, if we want to balance budgets over the course of the next 27 years, we would need to enact a 6.45% flat tax. Well, wait, that's not all. Because what are the chances that we will enact a 6.45% flat tax by January 1st, 2019? And the answer is no chance whatsoever. It's not possible. It's not going to happen. Every year that we don't raise the tax to the level that we need necessitates a substantially higher tax every year after that. So we are on pace for, if we don't do anything, in Illinois, our history has been, we don't do anything. Do we get a budget passed today? Yeah, we're done. Let's go home for the summer. Nobody's talking about tomorrow. And we're on pace for an 8.5% flat tax over the course of the next, that's where we're going to go. That's not possible. We can't do that, right? So, and why do I bring this up? Because that's the math of our situation. And if we don't acknowledge that, we'll never solve the problem. I did that query. I asked them to run that query. The most amazing thing to me was that it took them 5 days to respond to that query. Do you know why? Because no one's ever asked that question before. 177 legislators and a governor's staff in the hundreds. No one's asked. What's our projections over the next 27 years? Everyone's so hyper-focused on what's going on today. And to me, we've got to get ahead of that, because what happens is, as that liability grows, and those budget pressure grows, that stuff that we just dealt with, you think that additional money for K-12 education, you think we won't be able to spend it. We will start cutting on K-12 education. We will start cutting on care for senior citizens and people with disabilities. We will start cutting higher ed. Why? Because we'll have to. If you wait too long, you'll never fix the problem. One of the things that I did was, I proposed a bill. It was meant as a mathematical exercise. It was not meant to pass. It was meant as a mathematical exercise to show what could happen if we instituted a progressive income tax. It got a lot of criticism because the tax rate on the middle would be 6.27%. Now that's a 6.27 marginal, right? Because you pay less on lower income, and by the time you get to your middle income, you're paying 6.27. It would mean that people in our neighborhood would pay more taxes without knowledge. But what I did was, I used that money that was raised to create $3 billion in property tax relief, would be historic property tax relief in the state of Illinois. And one of the biggest problems in the state of Illinois is our exceptionally high property taxes. It's not our income tax. That income tax structure that I proposed is the exact same income tax structure. I didn't do anything new here. It's the exact same income tax structure in the state of Wisconsin. Okay? And all I hear is about how people are leaving Illinois and going to Wisconsin. I said, okay, well, let's use their tax rate. See what we can do with it. What it did was it gave us the money to solve those problems. For instance, it would give us enough money to create $3 billion a year of property tax relief, as I said, which would be huge. Another $500 million a year in sales tax relief. And middle income people, that's one of the biggest taxes you pay. Everything you spend, you're getting taxed on. So you bring the rate down a little bit, that saves middle income people some money. So it starts to rebalance the scales. But additionally, it gave us enough money to put $1 billion a year above and beyond what we're paying. Remember I told you there's those required payments in the pension system? If you add $1 billion a year, you cut 7 years off that ramp, and you save the state $60 billion. $60 billion. And what happens then is in 20 years, when that payment drops off, that pension payment, when we've repaid our debt, is a huge budget windfall for the state of Illinois. And we can do things that we would like to do. What would you like to spend money on? That's for, I won't be there, trust me, I won't be there in 20 years. That will be for the legislature in 20 years to spend money on. But when I say spend money, they could be spending money on higher education or K-12 education, or could be spending money on, a tax decrease. And you'll have the room to do it. See, here's the thing, everybody wants lower taxes. Everybody wants lower taxes. I want lower taxes. Poor people want lower taxes. Middle income people want lower taxes. Rich people want lower taxes. But you'll never get there if you keep letting the situation get worse. The only way you will ever be able to get to low taxes in Illinois is if you have a plan to solve the financial problems. And that is what we have to work on. So I'm spending a lot of time going around talking to people about the realities of our situation. $224 billion cumulative budget deficit for the next 27 years, right? A 6.5 to 8.5 tax, depending on when we start to act. Or we could start thinking about making some structural changes, making our system more fair, making us look more like our neighbors with a higher income tax, a lower property tax, and finally start addressing some of the financial problems. So that's what we did, and that's what I'm going to continue to work on the next year. I'm going to continue to try and find ways to save money on our pensions, and I'm going to continue to try and get people to acknowledge the reality of our financial condition so that we can sit down and solve it. I tell my friends on the Republican side of the aisle, we can disagree on the best way to solve the problem, but we can't even talk about it if you don't know what the problem is. And I assure you, none of them do. So that's where I'm going. One last thing I will mention, I almost kind of feel funny about mentioning it. Does anybody remember the Greek mythology? Sisyphus, remember Sisyphus? He's the guy who was destined to push the boulder up the hill for the rest of his life. So my Sisyphus bill would appear to be an elected representative school board for the Chicago Public Schools. It's been 4 years that I've worked on it. It did not pass this time. It got caught up in politics and the budget, and but I'm committed, and if I'm lucky enough to go back, I am going to double down on my efforts. In fact, whoever is the speaker next year, the only way they will get my vote for speaker is upon the condition that that vote makes it to the governor's desk, whoever that governor is. It's something that really means a lot to me. It's something I work really hard on, and I really want to see it pass before I leave the legislature. So that's it for what I have to say. I'm happy to take any questions from anybody that wants anything about it. So yes.